The royal family. Most kings and queens wanted to make sure they had lots of children, and they made sure those children understood what it meant to be part of the royal family. Being a prince or princess had both advantages and disadvantages. Advantages means that there are good things about being in a royal family. Disadvantages means that there are some not so good things about being in a royal family. This picture shows King George V of England, the Queen, and their eldest children. King George V ruled over England from 1910 to 1936, so about 100 years ago. As you can see, children in the royal family got to wear fancy clothing. They lived with their parents in the palace, which gave them plenty of space to run and play. Fine furniture and other beautiful things always surrounded them. For many kings and queens, having children was not just a matter of wanting to raise a family. In fact, children were the key to the future prosperity and success of the kingdom. Children were important to the wealth and good fortune of a kingdom. But why were children so important? Once a person became king, he usually remained king for the rest of his life. The period of time during which he ruled was called a king's reign, and when that king died, his reign ended, and one of the children from the royal family became the new ruler. When you inherit something, it means that someone else, usually an older relative, gives you something that once belonged to them. Often, when a person dies, their property, the things they own, including their belongings and money, are passed on to family members, who then inherit these things. This is what happened in kingdoms when the ruling king or queen died. Their power, the right to sit on the throne and wear the crown, was passed on to someone else in the family. Royal families always wanted children, so the power to rule the kingdom stayed in their family. If there were no children, sometimes the power to rule the kingdom went to a different family. Someone who inherits something is called an heir. In a kingdom, princes and princesses were heirs to the throne because they were to inherit the throne. The oldest son, the one most likely to be heir to the throne, is called the crown prince. He is called the crown prince because he is the next person to wear the king's crown and rule the kingdom. If there is no son, the oldest daughter is called the crown princess because she will be the next person to wear the crown and rule the kingdom. Remember that the crown is a symbol of power and that whoever wears it is in charge. This photograph shows Edward VIII of England, heir to King George V of England. He was the oldest of King George's sons, and he was called the Crown Prince because he became the next king. As a teenager, the adults treated him with great respect. People held doors for him and bowed to him because he had the important status of being the next king. He grew up having people serve him and tell him that he is very important. This is a picture of a palace in a country called Morocco. Inside this big, beautiful palace lives a crown prince named Moulay Hassan. He lives with his father, mother, and little sister. His father is the King of Morocco. Moulay was born in 2003 and is the oldest son of the king. Moulay will be the next king of Morocco because he is the oldest son and the crown prince of Morocco. The crown prince or princess is a very important member of the royal family, and he or she receives special education and extra special care in order to someday rule the kingdom. But what happens to the other princes and princesses, those who are not the oldest and heirs to the throne? Kings and queens often arranged marriages for their children. This meant that princes and princesses usually did not get to choose whom they were going to marry. Their parents decided for them. This was because marriage was used as a way to form a partnership between two kingdoms, or a way for two kingdoms to rule together as a team. When a prince or princess married someone from another kingdom, as in this picture of a wedding between a princess from England and a prince from Germany, it was an important event. All the most important people from those two kingdoms were invited because it meant that those kingdoms were going to be friends in the future. There were definitely advantages to being a member of the royal family, especially for those who liked living in palaces and wearing nice clothes. But being a prince or princess wasn't all fun and games. Some disadvantages include that they didn't always get to do whatever they wanted, especially when it came to whom they would marry. Often, anything they did was watched and commented on by others. Everything they did reflected on the kingdom and the royal family, and they had to be careful to behave in a royal manner at all times.